On the shoreline at Prestwick Beach, the body of a Swedish woman was found face down in the sand. The post-mortem conducted in Scotland recorded the cause of Annie's death as drowning.
When you were speaking to the police, what did...
I wasn't speaking to the police. I didn't speak to the police. Does Andrew say we spoke to the police?
Undertakers made a discovery that shocked her family.
Bruise to the head indicated that she had been done harm by someone. There was also significant bruising to her arm.
Mothers should cry at the graveyard, but they should not ask questions.
A morning walk on the beach became frightening on December 4th, 2005. People up early found a horrible sight on Portobello Beach in Edinburgh, Scotland. The dead body of a young woman washed ashore during the night. She was dressed only in shorts and a t-shirt, clothes far too light for the freezing cold weather. Her death raised worrying questions. What happened to the 30-year-old? Why was she in the icy water in so little clothing? Though police quickly called it a suicide, could the truth really be so simple? Police were quickly called to the scene, and the woman was identified as 30-year-old Annie Börjesson, a Swedish woman who had been staying in Edinburgh on holiday. The police swiftly declared it a suicide case. Annie had willingly walked into the freezing North Sea waters overnight and drowned. But for Annie's family back in Sweden, something didn't sit right with this unexpected verdict. Their Annie had so much to live for. How could this vibrant, intelligent woman have suddenly decided to take her own life without warning? Annie's mother, Gudrun Börjesson, was unstoppable in her search for the truth. She pored over every detail of the case and was shocked by the lack of real investigation done by the Edinburgh police. They hadn't even conducted basic procedures like checking Annie's phone records or obtaining her computer's browsing history. With non-stop effort from Annie's family, more worrying details surfaced that made people doubt it was really suicide.
It does make you question what happened before that body was found at the beach.
First, all of Annie's phone calls from the day she died had been erased. Her emails were wiped out too. The last person she had contacted was a man named Martin Leslie. But Annie's best friend Maria Jansson back in Sweden said this Martin Leslie was not who he claimed. Maria shared that Annie had met a man using that name several times in Edinburgh the week before she died. His behavior made Annie very worried and uncomfortable. The man aggressively insisted Annie goes out drinking with him alone late at night. He made inappropriate sexual advances towards her both in person and via text messages. Annie had confided to Maria that she thought he was a sexual predator and wanted to avoid him. The real Martin Leslie was found back in Sweden. He confirmed he had never once been to Scotland. So who was this fake person pretending to be Martin Leslie? Why had he targeted Annie? And did he maybe have something to do with her odd and suspicious death? The more Annie's family investigated, the more hints they found that showed her death was from foul play, not suicide. They learned Annie was not just a musician and athlete like people first thought. Under the fake name Kristina Börjesson, she had worked as an investigative journalist for several years. Some of her work focused on revealing corruption and misuse of power in the government and police. Had her secret investigative work made her a target for intelligence agencies or organized crime groups? Even more worrying was finding out Annie had recently been investigating illegal kidnapping programs involving the CIA in Scotland. These programs allowed wanted criminals to be more easily captured, tortured, and questioned at secret sites abroad, all under the claim it was anti-terrorism efforts. Had Annie uncovered something she shouldn't have? Had mysterious figures decided she needed to be permanently silenced? Requests were made asking the Swedish government to release any intelligence files they had about Annie's case, especially any talks between Swedish and Scottish authorities.
I still can't definitively say if Annie was murdered or that sadly she did take her own life. But what I'm certain of is there are a whole load of questions about this case which I still find completely inexplicable.
But the response was all the information was classified, and sharing it publicly would hurt national security interests. The unclear and scary-sounding rejection seemed strange. Annie's family and advocacy groups increased public pressure, starting petitions and contacting politicians, but the Scottish Parliament refused to change their minds. They kept insisting Annie's death was just a simple suicide and there was no need to investigate further. To this day, a small plate stands on the beach where Annie's body was found. It reads, Annie Börjesson, born February 7, 1975. Found dead December 4, 2005. Her loved ones never learned how or why. A stain on Scotland's reputation for fairness. With no hard proof, many theories exist about how Annie died. Maybe she was just a victim of the sexual predator, the fake Martin Leslie. Maybe she uncovered something in her investigative work that got her killed. Or maybe it really was suicide, even with all the suspicious parts of the puzzle. Like footprints in the sand washed away by the tide, the full truth of what happened to Annie Börjesson may never come to light. But for those who knew and loved Annie, the search for justice continues no matter the obstacles faced. Every year on the day Annie died, her mom Guya gives out papers to remind people. She does this in Sweden and Scotland, hoping someone will remember something or feel guilty and help solve the mystery. She promises to always look for answers about what happened to Annie on that cold night in December. Many confusing parts of the case that suggest something bad was happening secretly. Someone deleted Annie's phone and email records before she died. This raises questions about who did this and why.
A police investigation team quickly sealed off the area, but there are no suspicious circumstances surrounding her death.
It seems like they may have been trying to hide something. Also, a mysterious man pretending to be Martin Leslie was acting suspiciously around Annie before she passed away. This man specifically targeted Annie for unknown reasons and may have met with her the night she died. His true identity and motives are unclear. Annie was secretly writing news articles under a pseudonym, mainly about covert government operations. This suggests Annie may have uncovered sensitive inside information that certain parties wanted to keep hidden. Her stories point to her possibly discovering a major scandal or conspiracy. This could have made powerful people want to silence her. After Annie's death, the Swedish and Scottish authorities have been reluctant to provide details about the case or investigate further. Their lack of transparency and seeming disinterest in getting to the truth raises suspicions. Furthermore, they did not thoroughly examine Annie's body or conduct proper forensic and DNA tests that could have revealed evidence about what happened to her. It appears the authorities may be intentionally avoiding discovering or disclosing the true circumstances around Annie's death. Annie's last known enjoyments were singing with her band, going out with friends, and playing rugby with the local club she had joined. Her upbeat personality and zest for life made it hard to believe she would suddenly turn suicidal. Annie's friends said she hated the cold, so why would she go into the very cold sea without a jacket? She had planned to fly back to Sweden a few days after they found her dead. Would she really plan a trip and then hurt herself? The day before she died, Annie had been shopping for Christmas gifts for family and friends. She bought warm sweaters for her brothers and had mentioned to the shopkeeper how much she was looking forward to the holidays this year. Does that sound like someone on the edge of suicide? No one really saw Annie on the day she passed away. The last video of her was at a train station a day before they found her at the beach. Where was she? Who was she with? Why don't we know what happened in her last hours? Somewhere, locked away in classified files, a truth exists about how Annie Börjesson really spent her final hours. Whether by accident or the intentional work of dark forces, this bright young woman's light was tragically extinguished. But the flames of hope still burn in those determined to uncover what really happened to Annie.